Hello everyone, welcome to the February 11th Call of Duty slate. It is the first day of the second week, I believe. We can check. Beauty of the internet. Yeah, week 2. It's a little weird. We have 4 games on Friday and Saturday, but only 2 on Sunday. I'm not sure what inspired them to move a Sunday game to Friday. Probably the Super Bowl, I'd imagine, but then why would you play at all on Sunday? So I don't know. See, we go back to a normal schedule in the third week, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but we have 2 decent slates at least. I don't think we get a 2-gamer on Sunday, so no Call of Duty to worry about that day. But we can get straight into it. I guess because there's something to recap, we can look over. I shouldn't have closed that. So we can look over how week 1 went and where the teams are as a whole. We have London on top. Well, we have 3 undefeated teams. We have London, Seattle, and Atlanta. Then we have 3 winless teams: Texas, Paris, and New York. I guess LA Thieves and Toronto are technically winless as well, but they have only played 1 series, so it seems a little tough on them. We saw the middling teams, LA, Los Angeles, and Florida tie as well in the middle. So, looking at some of the teams in the whole, as a whole, I think there's like 3 tiers. I've seen this sentiment a lot, and I do agree with it. There's probably 3 tiers currently in the CDL. I think when you look at the top, I think Seattle, Atlanta, Toronto is probably just my 3 at the top right now. Then I think there's a gigantic middle tier where kind of a lot, like most of the league is. I'd say LA Thieves are probably near the top of that. Boston are near the top of that. London are at the top of that as well. Maybe you could classify them as like a B tier. I'm not sure. But it seems like, so you have Seattle, Atlanta, and Toronto at the top. We have Boston, I'd say LA Thieves, and the London Royal Ravens probably underneath them. Then I would say on the lower middle end, I think there's decent teams, but not great, like Minnesota, Los Angeles. I guess maybe you could put Optic in that conversation as well, although they've not looked good at all. And I think all the way at the bottom, I think New York and Paris, and I would say New York, Paris, and Florida are probably just in the bottom 3 by themselves. So I'd say 4 tiers, 3 teams in each. Little easy to look at there. Looking at the slate as a whole, it actually doesn't seem too interesting. This is a sort of a problem with the CDL that can arise. Is there just a lot of rather large favorites? So just based off of what I just said, based on the tier, how I expect these teams to kind of break down and how it's looking. I have Boston near the top, Paris near the bottom, so I definitely think Boston should be Paris. I don't think Paris is necessarily that bad. I had some hope for them, but then they just kind of let me down super bad, and Boston have looked really good overall. Seattle versus Minnesota. This one's a little close, but Seattle has looked just so dominant. I don't know why I keep closing the wiki tab, but they've been super strong, and I think they've also played 2 really good teams. No, they beat New York, and they beat New York, who is bad, and then they beat Toronto, who is good. But Seattle just have looked really strong overall. Maybe the hottest team right now, although it's tough. There's a lot of randomness in Call of Duty, so I think definitively they're above a tier, kind of on Minnesota. I think Minnesota are decent, but we only saw 1 series from them, and they beat up on Optic, and that was when Optic also is looking, something's wrong with them, it looks like. So There's still kind of like the jury's still out a little bit on Minnesota, but we know Seattle's really good. So I understand this price, and I kind of agree with it as well. Sorry. That pause is because I have a NHL game. I have money up on the second monitor, and that is an absolute amazing goal. You guys, if you guys care about the NHL, the Jimmy VC goal that he just scored was pretty miraculous. It was pretty amazing. Backhander to make it 5-3 against Seattle or against St. Louis. So, and the reason I'm watching this game is because I had the over 7, and so this cashes that bet, and I'm super happy about that. So I can close that game now and talk about Call of Duty. Again, like pretty much where I was at was just like, this is not a great slate. Like, I feel like Boston should get the job done over Paris. It's kind of hard to say whether like 3-0s or 3-1s, but I feel like the better teams are going to like win more dominantly anyway. So even if they do drop a map, it's not the worst thing. Sweeps are ideal. I think looking at a slate like this, sweeps are ideal, but there's still something to be said for a team that can go to a 4th map. Pretty much, if you guys don't know Call of Duty scoring, getting a sweep is like 45 bonus points. But if you, but the 4th map is, or the sweep is worth, the sweep is worth 40. Yeah, the sweep is worth 40 points. So it's pretty unlikely, but not necessarily impossible, that the players can score more than 40 in the 4th map. But, odds are that the sweep will be worth more, especially if you're stacking. Just getting the flat 40 across everybody is really good. So trying to eye down a sweep is probably the main thing to look out here. That'll probably be my tiebreaker between some of these teams, and we can talk about that as we go forward. So far, I just have Boston, the big favorite, getting it done, probably 3-0 or 3-1. I have Seattle probably getting it done as well, same boat, 3-0, 3-1 maybe. And not going to have a different opinion here on this Toronto-LAG series. If I were to pick one that doesn't worry me the most, I would say it is this Toronto versus LAG series. I still think Toronto should definitely get the job done. As you could see, Toronto, they've played one series, and it was a Game 5 loss to Seattle. So they lost in the closest fashion to the best team. So, I mean, there's not a lot really to hold against them there. It's just that we've seen one series, and things are so day-to-day in Call of Duty. It's just a little tough. You would just like more, that's all. And I've actually kind of liked what I've seen from Los Angeles. They got I believe it was a 3-0 sweep over the New York Subliners, and I think they lost. I'm not sure. We can. I think map counts should be here. Yeah, it is down here. So they got the 3-1 over in New York, and then they went to Game 5 and lost to Boston. So, like, LAG have had some good, respectable results. That's the only hesitation here for me, really, is, like, maybe LAG make it closer, and we just haven't seen that much from Toronto. That's just the hesitancy there. I feel like in these other two series, we've seen Boston play twice, or we haven't. But Boston played a lot in the preseason tournament, so we feel like we have a lot of data on them. We saw Paris play twice. They looked decent against Atlanta, and then looked like a fish out of water against Florida, pun intended. And that's just my small hesitancy there. So maybe that's a place where I leave alone. But, when so far I've had 3 favorites, and it's not going to change here with the 4th one. They don't have odds on this game currently on Bovada, because New York is already making roster changes after 1 week. I don't know what's going on internally or like what's happening there, but it's looking like, I don't even know if the 4th has been announced, but there's like a couple options that's looking like for New York. This player Neptune, he's released from the team, or he's dropped. He's not playing pretty much. I don't know. Like, he was arguably their second best player in the first place. He wasn't playing like it, but I think skill-wise he was. I just haven't seen a lot of individual skill from Clayster or Crimsix, and it's just hard to imagine that whoever they bring in is going to be better than Neptune. So similar to last week, I think this is just going to be like Hydra alone by himself, and if Hydra has a bad game, this could get really ugly. So I'm going with LA Thieves here as well. Sometimes this is just the nature of the beast. I don't love having a slate where I just pick 4 favorites. They're all pretty big size as well. But like quickly, I think Boston is significantly better than Paris. I think Seattle is a good bit better than Minnesota. I don't think that's necessarily blowout, but although it's definitely within the cards, just because we don't know how good Minnesota really is, and we know Seattle's really good. So something similar here with Toronto. They had a close series against arguably the best team. The second and third series, the Seattle, Minnesota, and then Toronto, LAG, they feel the same to me. It's like 2 elite teams going against 2 decent teams. So, maybe if these decent teams have a really good day, there's definitely some variance level where they can pull the upset off. I just don't see it happening too often. And I just like the Seattle and Toronto players a good bit. So I don't want to X them off necessarily. And then I think this is my favorite spot on the slate is the LA Thieves against New York. We only saw LA Thieves. They played 1 series against FaZe, and it was decently close. They lost 3-1, but the maps are pretty good, and I felt like the players just looked out of sync. That could be kind of attributed to them playing only their first series so far. So, and then we've seen from New York, they got blown out by Seattle, best team in the league arguably, and then LAG is like a middling team. I would say LA Thieves are better than LAG, and I think LA Thieves have a pretty big opportunity to get the sweep. So I feel like as a whole, LA Thieves are like the most likely to sweep and the most likely to get like decent scores. That's what we can talk about here on the breaking point. So as far as team selections, I'm kind of just picking 4 big favorites, and it'll come down to pricing and kill death ratio and some of that kind of stuff to decide with what players we're looking at individually. But as far as teams go, I mean, it's just tough to pick any of these underdogs, really. There's not a lot to love at any position. If I was to pick one, I would say LAG, just because they have really good names and good players. But it's just tough. Like, I could see Minnesota against Seattle as well. Actually, I would say Minnesota is probably my favorite underdog, although I don't like them a lot. I just feel like they have good individual players. They actually like competed pretty highly last year, and they have the same roster as well. It is a different game, but it goes from one quality to another. Like, some things change, but not everything does. It is the same roster. They competed pretty highly last year. I do think there's some room for growth there. It's just Seattle has looked so dominant. So, yeah, like if there was a spot, I think it's Minnesota, just because they have competed highly, and Seattle are like young, hot, up and coming like players. Like, if that makes sense, like there's just kind of a level of inexperience there. Like, they haven't necessarily proven to be winning for a while. That's the like small problem there. I mean, I like Seattle still. I'm probably just like leaning with the favorites. We'll get into roster construction and stuff, but it's going to be tough to get to like any underdog, unfortunately, on this slate. It feels like maybe next slate we'll see with next slate when we get there, because we have a whole set of games to analyze based on then. But for me, it's just kind of tough to look at any of these series and see the underdog having a great day. Again, small gut feeling LAG, Toronto maybe, but it's going to be tough to get there. So we look at team stats. We want to look at maybe who's having a differential in the like kill death department, because that's pretty much all scoring is. So the first one up is Paris Boston. So So Boston have only played a couple series. Their kill-death ratios aren't looking great. Paris actually aren't looking too terrible either. I think this could low-key be like a close one. Man. I don't know. It's tough what to make of this Paris team. Like they had a close series with one of the best teams in the league, and then they lost to arguably who I thought Florida was like the worst team in the league. I don't know. I just have to kind of go with my gut here and say with the Boston side. There's not a lot to love really from the team stats point, but I don't think we're going to be ignoring them overall. Seattle, Minnesota. We can look and see if there's anything happening here with the team stats. So, yeah, I mean, Seattle just keep winning. They've lost to that Toronto team and then beat them. They have some great kill-death ratios here. Minnesota is not loading. Give it a quick refresh. Nope. Oh, I don't know. The Minnesota Rocker team isn't loading, but it kind of feels like the same as the first one. Toronto versus LAG. Whoops, I don't know why I closed that. Whoop, wrong tab again. Nice. Wrong tab again. Need to click team stats. Sorry about that. Toronto LAG. Nope, this is LAT. Well, I'm just wasting so much time. So Toronto, their kill-death ratio and hardpoint isn't great. Looking decent in control. Search and destroy borderline doesn't matter. There's more kills in like a fourth of a hardpoint than there is in a whole search and destroy. So the respawn modes, hardpoint and control matter just infinitely more. LAG have actually looked pretty decent in these hardpoints. See, they've played Boston and New York. They've played Seattle twice. I don't know. It just feels like Toronto have kind of faced a murderer's row of teams here. Seattle twice. LA Thieves are decent. They've lost to Florida. They dropped a map to New York. I don't know. There's not a lot to love there. I think the Toronto players are fine. But the reason I kind of brought this up was because the New York team has a significantly bad kill-death ratios here. Like a 0.89 in this hard point, 0.96 here. We could search by just these games. So like 0.8, like they just bleed kills and stuff. Like they're a super good team to stack against. So I think the LA Thieves are somebody who I like to get pretty heavily on here. I don't know. There's not a lot to love, I think, overall. Like it just feels like a little bit of a grimy slate, and a lot of players are going to be highly owned. It's going to be tough to get different, but maybe we can figure something out. So we can look at overall kill death ratio. We can search by. We'll have the preseason tournament and the early games so far. We have Boston, LA Thieves, Toronto, and Seattle. Pretty super easy sorting here on breakingpoint.gg. So we have Sib all the way above everyone else. He's 10K. I guess it'd be easier to just go team by team. We can do that. Boston looks like Caspidal Methods, and then TJ Howley's. I feel like this kind of does him dirty a little bit. I don't think he's quite this bad. But as you can see, Method's pretty underpriced. Caspidal's pretty expensive. So I think if you're loading up on Boston, I think Methods and TJ Howley are the ideal ones. Caspidal is fine if you want to do like a Boston 3-stack. I think you're going to want him. I don't think I would ever get to narrow, especially at that price. The next one is Seattle. So we saw Sib already at the top. He's just super insane at the moment. I think Pred and Mac are pretty underpriced. Sib actually seems like a fair price. It's kind of tough to say who I like the most here. I feel like it's pretty much everyone but accuracy as well. Mac is pretty underpriced. Pred feels underpriced. Sib feels underpriced. So he's also the best player, so maybe he's a good spot to spend up at. It just kind of pick 2 of 3 depending on your salary and roster construction here with Sib, Pred, and Mac. Heading over to the third team here with the Toronto team. We have Kleenex, Insight, Cammy, and Vance. They're all pretty condensed. There's not a lot there. We see with Hardpoint Hilltime, Insight is doing pretty well. So it's pretty tough here with Toronto because it could be like anybody. There's not a concentration of kills here. So it's a decent 3-stack spot. Vance seems like super underpriced. I think he'll probably be popular. But one thing with the team slot actually is that for some reason Toronto and LAG are both the cheapest 2 teams. So I'd imagine the Toronto team slot is going to be like the most owned thing that we've ever seen in Call of Duty. I'd imagine they should be. I think this Toronto team slot like is legitimately just so good that you kind of just have to play it in like 100% of your lineups. Like realistically, they should be $1,000 like more expensive. Like they should be up here in the like 3,000 range, 3,200 maybe. Like they're just $1,000 too cheap, this Toronto team slot. So I think you just like start your lineup with this and then go from there. Like you get 9,500 per player. Captains are going to be more expensive, but there's a lot of opportunity that opens up with that Toronto team slot. So quick, the players. Kleenex is underpriced considering he's their best player. Definitely like getting to him. Insight, pretty expensive, but he's also a good player. Cammy as well. Bance underpriced. So I'd say Kleenex and Bance are probably the 2 you want. And maybe Insight is your third, but I wouldn't necessarily X out Cammy either. And then heading over to my favorite team of the day, the LA Thieves. I don't think we have a lot to go off of for them, really. I guess they played 8 maps. That's a good amount. But they're also super condensed and also not having great stats. Octane, Kenny, and Draza. As you can see, Kenny and Draza down at the bottom. Octane as well. So they're super reasonably priced. I like this 3-stack of Octane, Kenny, and Draza. I like this LA Thieves team as a whole. I feel like we've seen New York just bleed score to the enemy team. I think it'll be compounded, especially now that they're in like roster, mania, having their 4th player leave. It just all the red flags are on the New York side. Everything points to LA Thieves. That sometimes is a little bit worrying when everything tells you to go one way, but I think it's maybe best to just not overthink this and ride the LA Thieves train. So, I mean, I don't know exactly how I'm going to construct my lineups because there's not a lot of places to get different, really, I don't think. I'm probably just going to stick with the tight core, enter single entry, maybe 3 max stuff, and just hope that people overthink it and don't play the best plays necessarily. So when we look at things as a whole again, we can look and see Sib at the top, just significantly better by himself. We have Octane with a good amount of Hardpoint Hill time. Hardpoint Hill time does actually add up, so that's something to keep in mind. Like it's every 10 seconds in the hardpoint is 1 point. So I mean, this is like a 8-point gap here between like the top and bottom. So this is worth looking into, worth keeping an eye out for. Looks like Octane and Insight are significantly above everyone else. I would say, something to keep in mind. So, there's kind of all the stats. I like TJ Halley. I would say Accuracy, Envoy, and Narrow are probably ones I would want to leave off. But as you can see, it's a pretty condensed. It's going to be a lot of like coin flips, kind of. I don't know. It's not a good slate necessarily, but this game, the Call of Duty slates are kind of just too fun to watch, honestly. So I'm gonna have action. I'm probably gonna have 3 lineups like I usually do. I'm not sure what teams or how I'm gonna construct quite yet, but I mean, there's a lot of value, especially with this team slot and the Toronto thing. Like, you can kind of get anywhere you want. So maybe like leaving money on the table, that could be like somewhat unique. Just getting weird combos maybe. I don't know. There are options, but I don't know. Riding 4 favorites when it's possible because of the cheap team slot, it's just not a great slate as a whole. But hopefully we can get some right combos and right stuff. So I think ranking how I like these teams, I would say LA Thieves 1, Seattle 2. I'll go Toronto 3 and then Boston 4. But although Toronto and Boston feel pretty interchangeable for me, I feel like we have seen some like big scores from the Toronto players as a whole. And I think maybe that's one way to get unique. That's like the only thing I can think of is triple stacking on Toronto players, because then you can't play the team slot. So I might have that in a lineup or two, but it'll be tough to get away from the Toronto team slot. That's all I know. So that's going to be it for me today. Today we're just riding with the 4 favorites. I know it's a little boring, but can't force it and can't pick underdogs when you're not feeling it. And I'm just not feeling it with any of these rosters. I would expect maybe some surprises, but Call of Duty is so random and so day to day, but there's just not like reasoning behind it. And that's mainly what I like to focus on. So that'll be it for me today. Hopefully we can get some more interesting games tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'll have a video out tomorrow. I have a ankle surgery planned for tomorrow. It is early in the morning, but I just don't know where I'll be at tomorrow. So if I see you guys tomorrow, hopefully I will, for the Call of Duty slate, then I will see you guys then. And if not, then I guess I'll see you guys next week because I won't have a 2-gamer to make a video on. So I'll see you guys when I see you guys for the Call of Duty slate.